Hello, everyone, and happy Friday. My name is Nick Marro with Occupy Fantasy. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Marro DFS. I'm here today to help you walk through this massive 13-game NBA DFS slate on both DraftKings and FanDuel. We're going to talk through injuries, top owned plays, my favorite plays. But yeah, 13 games is a lot. So I'm going to try to go as fast as possible through these games. If you haven't already, please like the video, click subscribe as well. This helps us to climb those YouTube algorithms that allows us to get more of this free content out to you. Um, and yeah, if you're not already a member at Occupy Fantasy, become one today. You get access to the models you'll see in this video, our injury reports, a lineup builder for single and multi-entry lineups, and then our Discord server where you get one-on-one access to DFS pros who can help you build your lineups and choose contests accordingly. So yeah, I don't have much time for pleasantries today, guys. I hope everyone had a very great Thanksgiving, but we need to go game by game here. Yeah, 13 games. There's actually 14 games on today's NBA schedule. The Timberwolves play the Hornets. That is not on the slate, but we really don't need it to be. We have so many to talk through. So let's go. First, we got Philadelphia at Orlando. I'm going to click between the two sites here. I know we have viewers that like FanDuel, viewers that like DraftKings, so I'll do my best to kind of evenly go between the two. So let's start with Philadelphia at Orlando. The Magic are actually 2-point favorites at home against the 76ers here. That's because the Sixers' best players in Embiid, Harden, and Maxey are all out. Tobias Harris is available. DeAnthony Melton is available. Shake Milton is available. And those three are really going to be where you're starting if you're going to this game. Harris has been pretty scoring dependent. With all these guys out, he hasn't been as good as maybe we'd expect him or want him to be, but he's been viable. I think at 8K on FanDuel, and we're looking at, let's see, 8K over on DraftKings. So same price on both sites. He looks solid here. And then with Maxi out, we're going to be able to look at guys like DeAnthony Melton, Shake Milton. They're solid. I mean, the prices seem inflated, but they're getting all the usage here. So I do like both of them as options in this game. The big news for the Magic is they're getting Paolo Banchero back. And guys, forgive me if I'm not pronouncing all these names correctly. I mean, there's just so many, and it's tough. I know we had a comment a couple weeks ago where someone was upset I mispronounced a couple names. I mean, the info's there, guys. I assure you, I watch plenty of basketball, and if I'm mispronouncing, I'm sorry, but that's not the priority here. The priority here is to help you win money in DFS. So yeah, just talking through this quickly. Milton and Melton are going to be priorities for us on both sites, I think. Just sorting by ownership as it stands, Shake Milton popping to the top of the board. On DraftKings, I think we're going to see similar on FanDuel. Um, yeah, Melton's a little higher than Milton. It's funny, they're one vowel off, but yeah, both of those guys are solid plays for me. So I do like Melton. I do like Milton. I do think you can prioritize them kind of depending on what other value we see opens up, but they're going to be very high usage plays against Orlando, who's not a great defensive team. Bonchero's back. I do like him. The price is pretty inflated, though, at 8,600 on both sites. Probably not someone I'm rushing to get to. It looks like Wendell Carter Jr. is questionable. If he's out and we see either Mo Bamba or Bol slide into the starting lineup, they're going to be a decent option. Franz Wagner's fine. It's just he's priced up a bit. Jalen Suggs, scoring dependent guard, but I do think he's in play. Really, it's the Philly guys for me here, unless Wendell Carter Jr. is out for Orlando. But yeah, decent game environment. Only a 213 point total though, so that's one of the lower numbers on the slate. So maybe we don't necessarily need to force plays from this game, but I do like any Philly starter really. The one thing I will touch on quickly is that we've been seeing Montrezl Harrell getting the starts here, and Paul Reed has been the more productive center. If Reed starts, I do like him, but he's priced up on both sites, and Harrell's gonna lose ownership because he's been getting in foul trouble. But if he has a good game, I think he's going to see just as many minutes as Reed. So in tournaments, you could probably pivot to Harrell at much lower ownership. But yeah, spending too much time on this Philly Orlando game, we got 13 to go through. So let's move on to the Trailblazers at the Knicks. So the Knicks are 3.5 point favorites at home against Portland. Damian Lillard's still out. who's obviously the highest usage and probably the best player on the Trailblazers. So Anthony Simons immediately looks solid here. We've actually seen Jeremy Grant put up really solid numbers in the absence of Lillard. He's getting a ton of that usage. So these are the two priorities from this game, kind of towards the top. Nurkic is a decent GPP center. I don't mind guys like Josh Hart. If we see Justice Winslow start again, I think he's one of the better value plays on the slate. He had a really solid game, putting up near 30 fantasy points as a starter last time out. I'll have to look on DraftKings to see if the prices are the same. But whenever Winslow's in the starting lineup, he does do a lot of ball handling. 4,100. Yeah, so keep an eye on that. That might be the first real strong piece of value we have. So definitely keep an eye on him. But yeah, Simons, Grant, both solid plays. Kind of priced where they should be, though. But yeah, any Portland starter is going to look good now that Dame is out. So keep an eye on that. And then Nurkic is kind of boomer bust. I would never use him in a cash game. But if he's in, I mean, he has a 50-point ceiling. So I don't mind him as a tournament play. Hart's a little bit pricey. But I mean, the usage is there and small forward's pretty thin. So I could see going there. But really, the priorities are going to be Simons, Grant, Winslow if he starts, and then Shady on Sharp where he's cheap. 4,700 isn't bad. This is a talented rookie, scoring dependent guard, but we've seen some of these floor games in single digits. But if he gets back into the starting lineup, he should be virtually unowned. I don't mind him as an option. I'm hoping they start Winslow, though. I think he's the better play. So, yeah, over on the Knicks side, let's just sort by. Yeah, it looks like Mitchell Robinson's questionable again. If he comes back tonight and starts, he'd be a decent GPP punt. Cam Reddish's price is up, but if he starts, I think he's fine. Um, yeah, really not my favorite place to go. Really, I mean, on a 13-game slate, you should love every play you have in your lineup. I'll see if anything's really popping up there for ownership on the Knicks. I'm not seeing anything right now. Yeah, really nothing popping too high. I mean, Cam Reddish has had some great games. The minutes are going to be there for him, but the usage isn't always. So he's not my favorite value play, um, or even I don't know, top 10, top 20 on this slate. We got so many options. But yeah, I mean, the usual guys for the Knicks are fine. You could look to Brunson, Randall, Barrett, whoever starts at center. If it's Sims, Hartenstein, or Robinson, I think they're going to be in play. Um, and then yeah, who is it here? Quentin Grimes, he's had a few good games. I mean, if he starts again and Derrick Rose is out, I think he's a decent shot to hit value. They did price him up. He was closer to min price last time out. So I don't mind Grimes, but really no priorities for me on the Knicks. So moving into the next game, we have the Wizards at Miami. And there's a good chunk of games here at 7:30. Actually, no, 8 o'clock. There's a good chunk of games at 8 o'clock. So the order may be different on DraftKings, FanDuel, etc. But we'll do this Miami game first. So we get the Wizards at Miami. The Heat are 3-point favorites at home. And let's see. I know they got a bunch of guys we got to look out for. Jimmy Butler's still out. And if you guys see me looking over to the the right or left, it's because I have multiple monitors up. There's just so much information here. We got to kind of chug along through. Um, but yeah, Jimmy Butler's still out. I'm just looking for the injury report on my other screen. Here we go. Bam Adebayo's probable. It looks like he'll be in. Dwayne Dedman questionable. Tyler Hero questionable. Oladipo still out. Still no Duncan Robinson or Max Strus. Gabe Vincent questionable. So there is going to be some usage to go around. If Bam is in and healthy, he's a really strong play at 8,300. I think he's priced similarly over on FanDuel. Hero's okay. Don't like the price. I do like Kyle Lowry, but I like him more if Hero is out. So the more these guys that get ruled out, I think the more we can kind of lean into the starting lineup. But yeah, as it stands, Bam's a priority as long as he's in there. Better on DK at 8,300. 8,800 is not the best price. And then Kyle Lowry, he's been a bit inconsistent, but he has flashed a very high ceiling. So if we're getting Vincent, Strus, Hero, all these guys end up sitting, then Kyle Lowry is going to look a whole lot better. As it stands, I mean, the starters are fine. This is a decent game environment. 211.5 point total though. That's surprisingly low. If you're a betting guy, maybe bet the over here. I don't mind that. But really, there's no major priorities for me on Miami if all these guys are in except for Bam. I don't mind Hero on FanDuel at 7,200. AK is a little too expensive for me on DraftKings. Then looking over on the Wizards side, Bradley Beal is questionable. Rui Hachimura is questionable. Monty Morris is questionable. Pretty much everyone's questionable. If all those guys are out, Kuzma and Porzingis are going to look really strong here. We saw Goodwin get the start with Morris out last time. He didn't look great, but the minutes were there for him, so I don't mind him. Will Barton was very cheap on DraftKings. Last I checked, yeah, 3,300. If he starts and we get a couple of these guys ruled out for Washington, I think Barton's going to become a really strong value play. So keep an eye on that. But as it stands, I do like Porzingis and Kuzma kind of regardless. But if Beal's in, that's definitely a knock to their upside. If Beal's in, coming off a Q tag, I think we could get him at relatively low ownership, so he's someone I'll be considering. But really not the best game environment. We're just going to kind of have to wait and see how many of these guys end up ruled out. So I will use the FanDuel page here to move into the next game. We have the Brooklyn Nets at the Indiana Pacers. Let's see. Scrolling through injury reports. I think both teams are pretty healthy. Maybe that's why they're not popping up. Yeah, still no TJ Warren for the Nets. He should be back maybe next week. Yuta Watanabe's out. Been really great from three, but the Nets are healthy otherwise. So just looking at FanDuel first, we got KD up top, Kyrie, both fine in GPPs. Their prices are down a bit, which makes them a little bit more rosterable. But when all these guys are healthy, it's kind of tough to know which one's going to go off on a given night. Ben Simmons is priced up to now 8K on FanDuel, so really tough to prioritize him over there. But he has flashed that ceiling. He has been playing better basketball, so I don't hate him as an option. But yeah, KD's kind of unplayable at 11K on DK. So if you want to go to the Nets, I think you're better off going to Simmons on DraftKings. And then if you like Kyrie or Durant, they're going to look better on FanDuel. Royce O'Neal's been solid all season at 5,700. He's someone you could look at. 5,800 on FanDuel. A bit inconsistent, but the ceiling has been there for him. We've seen a few 40 fantasy point games. Joe Harris, very scoring dependent, but he's cheap. Same can be said for Seth Curry. This is a good game environment. Let's see what the total is looking like. We are looking at 232.5 point total. So this is so far of all the games we spoke about, probably the best game to target. But yeah, like I said, it's tough to know whether you're going to get a good night out of Kyrie or KD or both or either or. I think I'd rather play one or the other. I do really like the 10-5 price for Durant on FanDuel. That's the cheapest he's been all season. Even with Kyrie back, he is probably going to lead the team in usage still. 11K is just too much for me. I don't mind Kyrie, but there's a ton of great guards on this slate, especially expensive ones. So really not someone I'm rushing to get to. I'll take a quick look at ownership to see if anyone's popping. Doesn't look like it. So yeah, really no major priorities from the Nets. Obviously, whoever starts is going to look fine. I do like Simmons on DK. I do like the studs and Durant and Kyrie better on FanDuel, but very high point total here. So we could get some good scores out of these guys. Then over on the Pacers side, still no Duarte, Isaiah Jackson, Andrew Nemhard, both questionable. Really no other significant news. I do like Halliburton. 9,300 does feel a bit inflated for him. He hasn't really been hitting value, but he should be low owned. It is a great game environment. The Nets had a nice little stretch where they were playing good defense, but with Kyrie back in the lineup, that kind of changes their style. They play a little more in transition, a little more running gun, so that's going to hurt them defensively. I think they've dropped down those rankings considerably, so I'm totally comfortable playing Pacers here. I like Miles Turner a lot. Some games the minutes aren't there for him, but we've seen these 50, 40 point games out of him as far as fantasy points go. So Miles Turner is maybe your priority out of Indy. I'd rather play him than Halliburton at 94, 9,300. I don't mind Heald. I don't mind Mathurin. They're both kind of priced in the mid range, though, and they're both fairly scoring dependent. So it's tough to really trust either. TJ McConnell's had some good games, even with Halliburton healthy. Very tough to trust, but on a massive slate, if you are a mass multi-entry player, maybe mix him in a little bit. You could probably get him under 5% owned with some nice upside. But really, I do like, if I'm picking a pacer here, it's going to be Miles Turner. Don't mind Halliburton, but I don't like the price very much. And then if Isaiah Jackson's out, that could be more minutes for Turner and a guy like Jalen Smith. Really tough to trust Smith, but when he does get extended run, he has a pretty high fantasy point per minute rate. But really, it's Turner and then the studs from the Nets, depending on which site you're on. That's going to kind of dictate who we're targeting. Let's see here. So yeah, I'm jumping around. I got to make sure I get all of these 8 o'clock games. So we'll move into Atlanta against Houston. Okay, so Atlanta still no Bogdanovich, still no Culver, excuse me. Actually, Jarrett Culver looks like he might play tonight. That shouldn't change much. And then Tyrese Martin, I think that's a G League guy, so we don't have to worry about that. There is more to talk about on the Rocket side, but I'll start with the Hawks here. So just jumping around. Where is this game? There we go. Yeah, so we got Trey Young and DeJounte Murray up top. They both look solid. I wouldn't play them both in the same lineup, but they both have high ceilings. Trey's been the better player lately, but Murray's cheaper as a result. So you can kind of pick and choose. I would take a look at ownership before the slate starts to kind of dictate where I went there. If you sort by OF index, which is going to weigh upside heavier than anything, then pricing is a secondary kind of variable. We see Trey popping a lot higher than Murray. But as a result, I do expect we see higher ownership from him. I will say on these 13 game slates, they're annoying. But the one plus is you could really play whoever you want and not worry too much about ownership. It looks like right now most guys are staying under 20%. So you could kind of build a lineup you really like, and it'll still be pretty unique most of the time. So I do like Trey. I do like Murray. They're both solid here. Capella's fine. 6,700 is a reasonable price. John Collins is okay. Really not someone I'm rushing to get to. I don't love many of the value options on Atlanta. So it's really just the two guards at the pay up, and then Capella, kind of a boom and bust option against Houston too, who's probably going to be small in the front court. I think Şengün is doubtful. Yeah, he's going to be out. So we might get some value here out of Houston, sorting by value. Yeah, we're getting Eric Gordon towards the top. He's had some huge games. Usman Garuba. Now, this is a risky one, but with Sengun out, if he's starting at center, I do think we can look to him maybe as a value play. If Bruno Fernando's back, that would kind of take me off Garuba, but that's certainly a piece of news we'll have to keep an eye on. Yeah, Fernando hasn't played all season. I can't imagine we're going to see extended run from him. But if we do get Garuba starting at center, he has a pretty high ceiling. It's just he also has a low floor, kind of boomer bust. But if we're not getting a lot of value on the slate, then maybe he's someone we could look to. Who else is out for Houston? Still, Josh Christopher's back. Fernando questionable. Jalen Green probable. Deshaun Tate out. Yeah, so I don't know that there's any major priorities here for the Rockets. I do like Kevin Porter. If Green were to sit, Porter gets a huge bump, but it looks like Green is probable, so I don't imagine we're going to go there. Jabari Smith, talented guy, but he just hasn't been great for fantasy yet this season. Probably won't get to him on a massive slate like this. Eric Gordon, extremely scoring dependent, but we see those outlier games where he's hitting 40 fantasy points. So that's 7, 8x his salary, depending on what site you're playing on. So I don't mind Eric Gordon as an option. But really, no major priorities from this game. Just keep an eye on that starting lineup for Houston. If we do get Garuba as the starting center, I think he's a decent punt. Otherwise, it's really the Atlanta guards that I'd be looking at here. Okay, so we touched on that one. We got New Orleans at Memphis. This should be a pretty good game for fantasy reasons, anyway. So the Grizzlies still no Desmond Bain, still no Danny Green, still no Zaire Williams. John Conchar is listed as questionable. Santi Aldama is listed as doubtful. And yeah, just I'll say it up front. John Morant's probably one of my favorite pay up options on the entire slate. This game is a 227.5 point total. The Grizzlies are 3 point favorites at home. We've seen Morant see increased usage with Bane out of the lineup. Bane's been one of the better shooters in the league. So Jaw's obviously going to be taking more shots with him whenever he's not available. So I love Jaw here. I think he's really strong. Jared Jackson Jr. seems to be 100% back from injury. Always a guy you have to worry about foul trouble with a little bit. But very high fantasy point per minute rate when he's in there. Dylan Brooks, I can't do it at 7,400. Really loves to shoot. He has a high ceiling in him that he's capable of, but if his shot's not falling, it's very rare. We see that. Steven Adams, I think he's had a few big games against these Pelicans in the past. Fine at 5,300 as a value option at center. Let's see here. Check over on DK. Want to make sure I'm giving both sites equal love. But yeah, Morant looks good over here. 10-7. Again, one of my favorite pay up options on the slate. Don't love the price on Brooks. Jackson at 6,800 on DK is really strong. So he's over 8K on FanDuel. When you see a discrepancy like that, that's usually going to tell you where to play the guy. I like Jackson a lot on DK at 6,800. I think he's a strong play. Adams is the same price, 5,300. So he's a decent punt on both sites. But yeah, if Aldama's out, we could see more minutes for a guy like Clark. Conchar, if he's out, that should create more usage for whoever starts here as well. Really strong game environment. I'm prioritizing Morant. I think you could prioritize Jackson on DraftKings where he's sub 7K. Some risk, but I do think at that price it's probably worth the gamble. And then Steven Adams. We're going to have a ton of good centers to choose from tonight, but I do think he's in play at 5,300 on both sites. So big news here for the Pelicans is that CJ McCollum's going to be out of the lineup. This provides a nice boost to both Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson. In the same situation when these guys played on Wednesday, we saw Ingram do nothing in the first half, and he still almost hit value as he came alive in the second half. So I do like Ingram. I do like Zion. Ingram probably the higher floor. Zion probably the higher ceiling if we're choosing between the two. And then Jonas Valanciunas has a high ceiling, but he's pretty inconsistent. His minutes kind of tend to be all over the place. A guy we can look at is going to be Jose Alvarado for value. If he starts, he might be the best value play on the slate. I think our model has him as maybe the highest owned player right now. 45% on DK is very, very high. So as more value opens up, hopefully that number comes down. But as things stand, he is one of my favorite value plays, but I think the field's with me on that one. Let's see where he's at on FanDuel. Guessing similar. Yeah, 4,700, a little bit more expensive, but we're kind of lacking value. I mean, these guys had a chance to rest for Thanksgiving. A lot of these players got rested the day before, so most teams should be coming into this slate fresh. Obviously, keep an eye on that injury news. If you're not already a member at Occupy, the main reason is to get in that Discord. So as this news breaks, we can kind of help you work through it and make those correct lineup decisions. But yeah, as things stand, Alvarado looks great here. He gets you blocks and steals and everything like that. So he scores a little better on FanDuel, but he's a lot cheaper on DK, so that kind of cancels out. But yeah, I think you could prioritize Ingram on both sides. I like Zion a ton. Prefer him in tournaments just because he can be inconsistent, but like I said, he has a higher ceiling than Ingram, so I do like Zion here. And then Alvarado's probably the best value play on the slate as things stand. So really, really good game. I like Ja and I really like Alvarado, so that backcourt battle should be fun. So moving right along into this next game, we're making decent time. I could be making better time. I'm trying to go as quickly as possible, guys. But yeah, let's just keep it going. We get the Bucks at home, 3.5-point favorites against the Cavaliers. Looking through to the injury report, we have scrolling. I'm pretty sure Chris Middleton's still out for the Bucks. Where is this game? So yeah, I'm looking 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Teams release an injury report. That's what I'm looking at now. We also have the injuries baked into our model here, but I'm sorting quickly by game. So you could really use either. But yes, Drew Holiday's probable. Still no Ingles or Middleton for the Bucks. Pat Connaughton's questionable. So nothing major there. Giannis is always going to be a great pay up whenever he's on the slate. One of the best fantasy point per minute players in basketball. The minutes are fluctuating, but in a close game against Cleveland where there's only a 3-point spread, I think he's one of the better pay ups on the slate. How much I like him is going to depend on how much value opens up throughout the day. As things stand, he's really hard to build with, but if we get value and we're getting guys ruled out, then it gets easier and easier to get to a player like Giannis, whose ceiling is really tough to match. Drew's fine, really not someone I'm prioritizing. Guard is loaded tonight. Brook Lopez has been sneaky good this season. I think he's okay at center, but similar to guard, center is loaded tonight. So it's really Giannis or bust for me from Milwaukee. Yeah, kind of is what it is. I don't mind Allen as a value play. It seems like the Bucks are trying to trade him, so they're using him less sometimes. But it also seems like maybe they'll want to showcase him as a trade piece, so maybe he gets a little bit of extra run, but not something I'm prioritizing regardless. Then over on the Cleveland side, no Karis LeVert, no Kevin Love, no Ricky Rubio, no Lamar Stevens, no Dylan Windler. So there's going to be some good value here, I imagine, from Cleveland. Chetty Osman is someone. He's tricky. He is popping in the model here. Wide range of outcomes for him, but I imagine he's cheap on both sides. He's someone you could take a look at. Garland and Mitchell are both going to see increased usage, so I'd play one or the other. This is another case similar to Atlanta where I expect both of these guys to have good games, but I don't know that both can hit value. So you kind of have to pick between the two guards, but it is a good game environment. I have a slight preference to Garland where he's 1K cheaper. Let's see if the prices are similar on DK. Yeah, only 200 cheaper. So I like Mitchell more on DraftKings, Garland more on FanDuel. Evan Mobley and Jared Allen are both solid. Allen's been really good lately. They don't have Stevens with an injury designation, so we are going to see value open up in Cleveland. I think Okoro's someone, if he starts, you can maybe take a look at as a punt. I'd rather get to Chetty if he's starting, so definitely keep an eye on that. If Chetty Osman is starting, he's going to be one of the better value plays on the slate, so keep that in mind. But really, it's Giannis from this game, and as more value opens up, we'll get to more Giannis. But as things stand, really tough to prioritize. So moving right along, we got Sacramento at Boston. I don't think there's any major injuries in this one. Don't quote me on that yet. Boston seems, I mean, obviously still no Robert Williams for the Celtics, and they've been amazing without him. So just, yeah, I think the Celtics are going to be really tough to beat later in the year as he comes back. But yeah, still no Robert Williams. Gallinari's out for the season. Um, and then the Kings have not submitted their injury report yet, but it looks like they're healthy. So this game's an easy one. I won't spend too much time on it. It's the usual suspects. Tatum looks good. Brown looks good. Both sites, strong plays. Fox looks good for the Kings. Sabonis looks good. Sabonis hasn't been hitting value as consistently as the other three pay ups here. So he's probably fourth for me, especially where he's 9,500. That's a little bit heavy of a price tag. I like Horford at that 5,500 price. Just a little too cheap for what he's been doing. And yeah, GK has that game earlier. Here we go. Yeah, Tatum 10-8, like him a lot. Brown 8-5. So these guys are similarly priced on both sites. Kevin Herter's been solid. I think he is probably my favorite mid-range option from this game. But really, I'm mostly looking at the pay-ups. Not my favorite game on the slate just because there's no injuries. And if there's injuries in all the other games, you're not going to get much value from two healthy teams. But Tatum has been excellent. Brown has been really solid, as has De'Aaron Fox. So those three guys all look good. And then Harrison Barnes in that, not Harrison Barnes, Kevin Herter in that mid range. I don't mind Harrison Barnes, but he's just not a priority. Okay, we've got one more or two more 8 o'clock games. Yeah, the slate's just massive, guys. I know I'm talking fast. I'm probably going to miss a couple plays. But yeah, if you're not already a member at Occupy, get in. You could see the model. You could sort by ownership. You could sort by value. You could see the best plays on a given slate throughout the day as we get more of this news to break. But let's take a look at the Lakers here. So whenever LeBron's out, Anthony Davis has been absolutely amazing. He's listed as probable. LeBron is listed as questionable. Pat Bev is still out for the Lakers. So really, if LeBron sits, AD is my favorite pay up. I like him as much, if not more, than Giannis. I just love him here. He's been insanely good. Just taking a quick look at his game log, 89 fantasy points on FanDuel last time out. That 64 fantasy point game against the Spurs came in a blowout. So he's just been ridiculous. I'm hoping LeBron sits again because AD's been the best player in the league with him off the floor. Russ is fine at 7,200. Guys like Reeves, I mean, some of these guys will see a little bit of extra run with Pat Bev out, but yeah, really we got to wait on that LeBron news. And if LeBron's out, I'm prioritizing AD, favorite pay up on the slate. But yeah, we got to keep an eye on that. There's a chance LeBron comes back. I don't know how banged up he is, honestly. It's tough to say with him because he's listed as questionable even when he's healthy. So again, AD is a priority if LeBron's out. If LeBron's in, I still like him, but not nearly as much. I'd rather have a guy like Giannis. But that extra usage he sees with LeBron out has just been amazing for him. Um, let's see. And then on the Spurs side, we have Zach Collins questionable. If he comes back, that's going to hurt Charles Bassey, but that's really the only significant news. Josh Richardson out as well, and Doug McDermott questionable. So nothing too major there. You can look at the usual guys: Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Trey Jones, all fine plays. Really, no one we have to prioritize. I'll quickly check the model to see if anyone's popping. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything on either site from this game. Yeah, but really high total here, 232. The Lakers are only 3-point favorites on the road, and that line has been closing, which kind of tells me LeBron's going to be out again. That's an assumption. We got to wait for that news. But again, if that is the case, prioritize AD tonight. He can hit 100 fantasy points, and that's not an exaggeration. Okay, so moving into the next game. Now we're on the final 8 o'clock game. We have the Chicago Bulls at the OKC Thunder. I don't think there's any major injuries in this one. Taking a quick look. Da, 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 da. Scrolling. Yeah, so we got, just the guys who've been out all season for OKC. The Bulls, Goran Dragic is doubtful. Nothing major. Yeah, so similar to kind of the Boston game, I think the payups that usually look good are going to look good here. I like SGA on both sides a lot. Josh Giddey is solid. Zach Levine I like a lot more than DeRozan just because DeRozan's been the better player, but at that price, I mean, he has a wide range of outcomes, a low floor for the 8 to 9K range. So someone I'm not really rushing to get to. I imagine this total won't be too high either. Taking a look. Um, well, I was wrong about that one. 232.5 point total. I kind of like the under. Just talking through some bets here, but yeah, I mean, SGA is the priority from this game for me. I don't imagine there's going to be anyone else really highly owned from either side. Take a quick look. Oh, Vooch is getting up there on DK. I mean, I think it's a price thing, 7,500. That's pretty solid for him. We see him 8 to 9K most of the time, so that's someone we can consider. Zach Levine, where he's under 7,200 on both sites, I think is fine. DeRozan's okay, really not someone I could prioritize with the rest of the lineup healthy. He's just much better when Levine's out. But he has been pushing 40, 50 fantasy points in most of his games, so I don't mind DeRozan, especially with that game total. But he's tough for me to prioritize. I prefer the OKC side. SGA is kind of not quite a top priority for me. I think I like Morant better. I like Davis better if LeBron is out. I like Giannis better, but then SGA kind of slides in right next here as far as payups go. Um, and then yeah, Josh Giddey's fine, scoring dependent guard, but where he's priced reasonably, I think we could take a look at him. Um, but yeah, another decent game environment. You just gonna have to kind of pick your spots. But let's take a quick look at DeRozan because I kind of poo-pooed him early, but I mean, yeah, he's going over 40 fantasy points, 4 games straight. So you should probably like him a little better than I do. Um, 8,400, he's fine. But yeah, there's just games he disappears and he is scoring dependent. He usually gets the points he needs, but when he doesn't, it can hurt your lineup bad. It's better to have a bust in that 3-4K range than it is to have a bust in the 8K range. And just a guy like that with a wide range of outcomes, I'm often hesitant to go to. Okay, so moving into the 9 o'clock window, we have the Detroit Pistons at the Phoenix Suns. If there's a game on the slate with blowout risk, I'd say it's this one. There's a 12.5 point spread. So maybe that alone kind of takes you off things. But the issue is Chris Paul's still out. So we're going to have to look at Devin Booker as a strong pay up. Cameron Payne is a nice mid range play. Both these guys look solid here. Booker up to almost 10K on FanDuel, though. Really, that's not ideal. Phoenix. Yeah, 9,900 on DK. So I like Booker. I think he's good. Maybe if you're playing the late slate, he's someone you prioritize. But on this huge main slate, I'd rather go to guys like Giannis, Morant, etc. Campaign's fine in the mid range. And then on the Detroit side, still no Cade Cunningham, which has created a lot of usage for guys like Killian Hayes, who's listed as questionable, Bojan Bogdanovic, who I like in the mid range, no Sadiq Bey for the Pistons either. So, yeah, I mean, if they're going to keep this game close, I think a lot of these Pistons could hit value. Like I said, no Sadiq Bey, no Cade Cunningham. Killian Hayes is questionable. If Hayes is out, maybe we see someone like Corey Joseph moving in the starting lineup. He's kind of been a dud even when he's had the minutes. Really not someone I'm rushing to get to. If we see Alec Burks start, I actually like him a lot. He has a very high usage rate, takes a ton of shots, and he's cheap enough on both sides. 5,300 feels a little inflated, but again, if he's in the starting lineup, I would be comfortable getting to some Alec Burks. So yeah, I mean, I like Ayton. I think he's fine on both sides. There's better center plays on the board, though, in my opinion. Torrey Craig's fine, not a priority. It's really Campaign and Devin Booker from the Phoenix side, and then whoever starts from Detroit's going to look decent. But we got to keep an eye on some of this injury news. If Jaden Ivey's out, that should open things up for Bogdanovich and Burks. Still no Isaiah Stewart. If we start to see Jalen Duran start consistently, I think he's going to be a decent center play. Minutes haven't always been there for him though yet. We've seen a couple big games out of Marvin Bagley. It's really tough to trust this guy. But yeah, he's coming off in 20 minutes, the best game of his season, 19.6 rebounds, a couple steals, assists. Don't mind Bagley as a lower mid-range play, but I do think we end up with better value on the board than this. Again, I mean, we have 13 games to choose from. It's tough to want to go to the game where there is a double-digit spread, 12.5 point spread here. So decent spot, not one I'm prioritizing. Let's move into Utah at Golden State. We got Steph Curry up top, excellent everywhere. Lauri Markkanen, yeah, he's good here as well. A little bit inconsistent for the price, but he's having a strong year. We've seen 50 fantasy point games out of him. Still no Mike Conley, I imagine. Yep, no Mike Conley for the Jazz. which creates more usage for guys like Jordan Clarkson. Um, yeah, Taylor Horton Tucker was a major dud the other night, but yeah, it's Clarkson and Colin Sexton from the Utah side. They're probably two of the better value plays on the slate as things stand. Yeah, we see Sexton popping way up here. And then Kelly Olynyk, he has power forward eligibility on FanDuel, so I like him better over there. But at 5,200 on DK, he's a strong center play there as well. So Utah actually has a lot of good pieces here. We got Laurie, we got Kelly Olynyk, Colin Sexton, and then Jordan Clarkson. So all four of those guys look good with Conley out. Their prices haven't been as jacked up as some of the other games where they knew there would be injuries going in. Clarkson 6,700, better on FanDuel. Olynyk I like on both sites. Sexton I like on both sites. Malik Beasley in tournaments I think is fine. He's going to come off the bench even with other guys injured. But look at this. His game against Detroit 11 rebounds, 29 real points, 5 assists. Just outstanding, outstanding performance. Yeah, so you can take a look at Malik Beasley. Don't be alarmed if he doesn't start. I still think he's a strong play. Over on the Golden State side, it's Steph. I mean, Clay has been rounding into form. I think he's fine. I'm not playing Jordan Poole until he looks better. So it's really Curry for me here. Some Clay Thompson. That's probably going to be it. I don't mind Wiggins or Draymond as kind of last guys in, but neither are priorities for me. So it's more so the Utah side, Steph Curry if you can afford him. But yeah, keep an eye on that Jazz lineup. It's going to look really strong, and Malik Beasley, even if he's not in it, is a very good play. So moving into this late night hammer game, we have the Denver Nuggets at the Los Angeles Clippers. Nuggets. Bones Highland's out. Jokic is probable. Michael Porter and Ish Smith both questionable, which means Aaron Gordon should be in. But yeah, Jokic, if you can afford him at center, I think this is an excellent spot for him. The Clippers have not been good defensively in the front court. We're looking at a 3.5 point total on the road for the Nuggets here. And I mean, Jokic, he was coming off a COVID illness. So he's healthy. He was just dealing with COVID. He seems fine. I mean, just look at these game logs. Coming off a 57 and 60 fantasy point performance. Again, in a very, very positive matchup against a soft front court defense and Ivica Zubac and friends. So I love me some Jokic here. Um, Murray's back. I think he's okay at 6,700, not someone I'm prioritizing. Um, Aaron Gordon looks good. Bruce Brown's been outstanding. He's better with Bones Highland out and starting. If he's in the starting lineup and Bones is out and Michael Porter's out, then Bruce Brown's going to become a priority for me. Otherwise, I don't think you necessarily have to force that. But since the game's so late, maybe just leave yourself some room to pivot. Then over on the Clippers side, taking a quick look at yeah, Paul George is still out. Kawhi's still out. Luke Kennard's still out. So really, whoever starts here, we're gonna like Reggie Jackson, John Wall coming off the bench. He has been seeing a few more minutes. Minutes are inconsistent with him though. He's tougher to trust. I don't mind Norm Powell. We finally saw a good game out of Marcus Morris. I think he's one of the better kind of mid-range value plays on the slate on both sides. He looks really good here. If Terrence Mann starts again, you could go to him. But yeah, it's really Morris for me, at least on FanDuel. Take a quick look at his price on DK. Cha, 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 cha. Yeah, 5,900, totally reasonable. So I don't mind Zubac as kind of a GPP center. Really not someone I imagine I get to a lot of. Morris is the priority for me on the Clippers side, but I really, really like Joker tonight, and I really like Bruce Brown if we do get news that MPJ's out, because we do already have Bones Highland out. So just to kind of wrap things up quickly, guys, there are a ton of plays to choose from on this slate. If LeBron's out, AD is my favorite pay up. Otherwise, I do like Giannis and Ja Morant a little bit better. Steph Curry and Jokic both look excellent. If you can fit Jokic at center, I think it's a good night to pay up for him against the soft Clippers front court. If we're looking at value quickly, Jose Alvarado and those Utah Jazz guys are kind of popping towards the top of the board right now. But yeah, I try to be quick. It's really tough for 13 games. I really, really do appreciate everyone tuning in. If you haven't already, please click that like button. Please click subscribe. Feel free to drop questions in the comments below. If you guys have them, we'll have someone answer them for you. And if you're not already a member at Occupy Fantasy, you want access to this model, you want access to our experts, join. We're one of the more affordable sites in the industry. Definitely some of the best tools and the best team behind them. Highly, highly recommend everything about Occupy Fantasy. So once again, my name's Nick Marro. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Marro DFS. I'm very sorry I went over 35 minutes today on this 13-game slate, but I just want to thank everyone for taking the time to tune in. Let's have some fun and make some money tonight. Good luck, everyone.